in this transition? And most importantly, who can you trust when danger lurks now in plain sight? This is not the time to sit on the sidelines. Therefore, join me, John Michael Chambers, in partnership with Empower 2000, Dr. Joseph Peck, for a free masterclass titled Global Financial Reset, Surviving and Thriving the Transition on Tuesday. Mark your calendars, Tuesday, November 18th, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. This one-time only event will equip you with the clarity and insight needed to navigate the coming storm, and there is no charge for this masterclass. Across the nation and around the world, people are asking the same questions. How do I protect and preserve my hard-earned assets? How do I make sense of what's happening in the financial system? Very key, and we're going to cover some of that today. How can I position myself and my family to not just endure, but emerge stronger? The window of opportunity, in my humble opinion, is closing fast. In this powerful masterclass, you'll discover exactly what you need to know to stand strong, protect your assets, and just how to goots, G-O-O-T-S, get out of the system. The world is shifting and the dawning of the new financial era is here. So again, mark your calendars. That's Tuesday, November 18th at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. And next week, the registration link for this free one-time only masterclass will be posted at jmcbroadcasting.com and wealthcoachuniversity.com. I look forward to seeing you there. One more brief announcement. I've been a pretty busy individual here creating content to do my role in trying to get information out to help us all. Certainly the shows I broadcast, and the incredible guests that I bring on. However, I've also published a book, just hit Amazon 2 days ago. The Global Financial Reset book has just been published. Barnes & Noble and Amazon and other outlets. Please pick up your copy today. You can go to jmcbroadcasting.com and click on the image you see there of the book. We are at war. This is what the book is going to cover. And this is not a drill. The stage is being set. And the controlled demolition of the current financial system and restructure is happening before our very eyes. While I'm beyond optimistic of where things are heading in the golden age, we are in the danger zone. As some big games are being played that neither you or I can control. So the currency supremacy war is indeed heating up, one of many battles in this war between good and evil. The central banks are preparing to convert deposits into central bank digital currency, of which President Donald J. Trump has spoken out against, the central bank digital currency. With this central bank move, there are valid and great concerns of draconian controls mirroring the Chinese credit profile system. What else is happening behind the scenes? New tax policies, ending the Federal Reserve and the IRS as we know it, new banking systems. How about the United States dollar, the currency itself? Are we returning to a gold-backed currency with perhaps other tangible commodities as backing, ultimately en route to some digital currency, a stable coin, into an encrypted QFS? By reading the pages of this book, and it's 82 pages, a quick read. By reading the pages of this book and taking advantage of the opportunities within, you will become informed, empowered, and connected with the confidence to take action now. Saving America and protecting your wealth are not spectator sports. Will you be on the wrong side of history? It does require effort on your part and due diligence, then action. Action changes things, and it's time. So as we witness the greatest financial reset in history, prepare for a new era from the shadow and control of the cabal. The future is bright and it belongs to us, not the corrupt elite. In summary, we are mid-transitioning. We've not yet arrived. What's occurring during this transition? Danger. This is the danger zone on the economic and financial battlefield. So again, there is tremendous opportunity to prosper. Strategies, models, and proposed solutions will be defined within the pages of this book and on this very show each and every week, the Global Financial Reset, which we're streaming live on multiple platforms. This is indeed a must-read book, which should be shared with others. All right, so joining us in just a moment is retired Colonel Tom Lennox, and closing out the show later is Josh Reed. This brings us to our first guest, our good friend, Sean Morgan. Sean's a contributor to John Michael Chambers or JMC Broadcasting. He produces the cutting-edge, concise reporting twice weekly titled News Behind the News with Sean Morgan. A good friend and patriot for many years. Please welcome back to the GFR, Sean Morgan.
Thanks for having me on, John. Really appreciate it.
Good to see you, Sean. You know, we don't have too much time on this segment, but we chatted in the digital green room before you came on, and I think while it may not necessarily be economic related, I think it's important news. Would you share in a summary what's taking place right now in the country of Brazil, as we just chatted about a moment ago, please?
Well, a little while back, we had a stolen election very similar to the United States. We had a similar Fedsurrection set up by the government to try to entrap patriots, very similar to January 6th. It was just 1 year after, in January. It was the same playbook, and they still have patriots rotting in prison in Brazil as a result. So Bolsonaro is the Trump of the tropics. He supposedly lost the election by a hair, and Lula da Silva, the extreme leftist, who was the president in Brazil many years ago and had been in prison for money laundering, is now the president again. And we have a very strong Supreme Court and one particular justice who has basically been ruling the country in a form of a Supreme Court dictatorship. And he has done things like outlaw certain politicians from expressing themselves on Twitter. He has outlawed rumble.com, which is my main video platform. So a lot of conservatives have been impacted by this censorship. Luckily, Trump has been, sanctioning members of the regime and their family members from being able to visit or live or study in the United States. And this is having a very powerful effect because the elites in Brazil, all of them and all of their family members, travel, study, and do business in the United States. That's where all the money is. That's where all the power flows from, both on the left and the right. So basically what they're trying to do is the same thing they tried to do with Trump. They tried to persecute him legally with lawfare and to try to put him in prison and to prevent him from running again because they are scared to death that Bolsonaro would win the next election. So things are still playing out very slowly here. It is still being run by a leftist regime, but we've had recent major wins in Argentina by Javier Milei's government. They've won a lot of new seats. And so this is the spark of a revolution in South America. We're going to see a lot more conservative governments and free market capitalists winning, and we could see some major changes in Venezuela, which borders Brazil. So there are many things happening. It's happening slower than we'd like because it is hard to live in Brazil if you're making a Brazilian salary. Luckily, I work remotely for American companies, so I'm able to make more than the average Brazilian and live a better life. But I'm here observing crime rates going up due to the inflation and desperation and all the bad policies.
Wow, you did allude to, and that was what was on my mind when I was listening to the corruption and the legislation, political activism from the bench and from the power centers there. Sounds like the exact deep state model, as you mentioned, that they ran against us over here. Thank goodness on our end, that's coming to a screeching halt now. And I believe ultimately the upsets that you're experiencing in that neck of the woods is ultimately the world is going to be in the light or in the dark as the years go by, because what President Trump and the Global Alliance is doing is setting things straight, and it's a long process. We wish you the best. Sean Morgan, of course, U.S. citizen residing in Brazil. So, Sean, please, if you will, before we get into your commentary on the state of the economy and various aspects of that, talk with us about some of your most recent reporting on News Behind the News, which, by the way, folks, is published twice a week on the homepage at jmcbroadcasting.com and certainly distributed everywhere else. What kind of reports are you focusing on right now?
Well, I've done a couple of reports following up on the aftermath investigation of the Charlie Kirk assassination, all the anomalies, inconsistencies, and the research that many normal, independent people are just getting together and doing. It's a crowdsourced effort of many different journalists, independent researchers, and regular citizens just observing, making connections, connecting the dots. And it's been encouraging for me to see people do that, because I remember when I was a teenager and 9/11 happened, everyone just bought the official narrative hook, line, and sinker. And it took years for these kooky conspiracy theorists to connect the dots by themselves, and they were put into the fringe, and that's not fair. So I really am encouraged by the research that people are doing. I've been putting out these reports about, basically documenting other people's research. And this week I am releasing a piece on the circular rotation of funds that's happening at the top of the big tech companies in the S&P 500. If you take away the big tech companies, the S&P 500 has been flat for several years. So it's just a few major players that are making a lot of profits, and three of them that I'd like to mention and that are in my latest report have been giving each other money. It's going in this circle where OpenAI gets money from NVIDIA, and then they buy something from Oracle, and then Oracle invests in NVIDIA, and NVIDIA invests in Oracle, and it's just these three companies giving $100 billion to each other and calling it revenue. But it's just passing the money along in a circle. So that's a scam, and that is definitely something that should be looked into. And I'm happy to be able to bring that type of information to your audience as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you do. You do surface from time to time in your reporting uh, things that should be headlines that just don't make it anywhere because there's so much going on. And I'm glad you bring that type of deep research and concisely to the surface. What a cozy clan these three have. It's interesting. I'm glad you're exposing it. So, News Behind the News, Sean Morgan at James E Broadcasting. So, Sean, what is your 40,000-foot view of what you see taking place in this global financial reset? From so many angles you could take on it, but starting where you'd like on the big picture and whittling it on down a bit. What do you see President Trump and team in the process of doing?
Well, I think it's really fun to take a step back now and remember what it was like at the beginning of 2025. Remember when President Trump and his economic team, Secretary Bessent, and Peter Navarro, and all of those great people set out this trade plan. And we had the panicans, right? The people who panicked at the idea of the United States changing its economic model and charging companies to do business in the United States, and basically forcing or strongly encouraging or putting the incentives in place so that these foreign countries should invest in the US and invest in our manufacturing and hire Americans and build in America and so forth. And many people said it would tank the economy. There would be an immediate depression. There were so many people on the left and the right who said it would never work and that it was going to immediately trigger some type of problem. And yet here we are, many months, almost a year later from when was first put into place. And what we've seen is a gigantic success. And the trade revenues are coming in, and the gigantic investments are happening. They're building data centers, they're building manufacturing in the US. Americans are winning jobs. And just last week, whenever there was a big election win in Argentina, Secretary Bessent happened to make a big bet on the Argentine peso, and that was multi-billion dollars of profit for the Department of Treasury. So we are lucky to have Secretary Bessent at the helm here. He's bringing in the money, and these are business people in charge instead of the people that were there before, who were purposefully trying to destroy our nation economically, politically, and culturally. We have businessmen at the helm who are bringing in money, lowering the debt, and investing in our strength and our power for a generation to come. And a lot of that has to do with AI and military.
Wow, well said. Yes. Things are happening. We have a lot of momentum, as you just indicated, and that brings my attention to who President Trump calls "too late, Powell." I call him "too little, too late, Powell," because while he did finally step up, he didn't step up enough. I see Powell's days numbered. What do you think is happening there?
Yes, sometimes it's a quandary, isn't it? Whenever people like Lindsey Graham are endorsed by President Trump, and it makes you realize sometimes President Trump keeps pieces on the chessboard because he can control them, and sometimes he would rather have a Lindsey Graham or a Jerome Powell that he can control or that is predictable, rather than to have some type of person who's unpredictable or that he can't control. And I know that a lot of people don't like that, and maybe it's too harsh of a reality for some people to face. But I'm not a panican. I don't worry about Jerome Powell. I don't worry about Lindsey Graham, the Lindsey Grahams of the world. I have seen, from the very beginning of working with you, John, over these years, where you and I have had the same philosophy, which is trust Trump. Just give him a chance and see if he can work it out. And look how it's worked out. Even when he supposedly lost the election and we had the January 6th debacle, talk about panicins back then, right? Everyone supposedly lost hope. And COVID and all of that was like the dark night of the nation, right? The dark night of the soul, so to speak. But people who kept the faith, like you and I, have been vindicated. So you got to trust Trump that there's an extra layer of strategy that the average person might not be aware of.
Well said, Sean. And in Trump we trust. I know I'll get lashed for that, but it's fun words. But absolutely, no question about it. And the plan as well, which is there is one, and what we see is the plan unfolding. And you mentioned about keeping the enemies close, sort of a viewpoint with Lindsey Graham and Jerome Powell, people that President control. You're absolutely right. Deception is almost everything in war, and we of course are in an information war, and I have all the confidence in the world in the president's decision making, measured by, I can state that, measured by the ultimate results that we ended up with. Any closing comments, Sean? I appreciate you stopping in here and your schedule there in Brazil. Any closing comments before we sign you off and bring on our next guest?
Well, I know with this economic program, people are wondering about gold and silver and crypto and what is the economic system going to be. I think it's hard for any of us to predict or to know exactly what it's going to be, but we know that it's going to be about prosperity, about freedom, about free markets, and people being able to create and keep that wealth. And we've seen the different hints of that, for example, in Florida, getting rid of the real estate taxes. We shouldn't have to rent our own property from the government, which is what real estate taxes are. And so I think we're going to see things like that, get rid of the IRS, get rid of all of these taxes. And it's just going to mean prosperity and freedom for Americans. And I think we just need to keep that main idea in mind.
Sean, you just casually said, as we get rid of the IRS, we're not paying property taxes. Folks, did you hear that? That is that's front page news of the century. And we have 10 stories like that taking place right now. So thanks for raising that issue and closing your segment out on a very positive note. Stay safe in Brazil. We wish you the best. It's a slow barge moving around the world, but it is turning around. Thank you, our good friend Sean Morgan. How can people follow your work beyond JMC Broadcasting?
That would be SeanMorganReport.substack.com.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much, Sean. See you next time. Appreciate your contribution here. We do have Josh Reed coming on at the conclusion of the show, but right now we have our featured guest, retired Colonel Tom Lennox, is returning to the Global Financial Reset Show, and he served this nation in military, combat, intelligence, many, many fields and hats, honorably and incredibly for decades. And it's wonderful to have the Colonel back on the show. He was also a comptroller for the Department of Defense back in the day as well. So please welcome back Colonel Tom Lennox.
Thank you, John. I wanted to make one comment on something that Josh said. He talked about the circular money. The circular money has been there forever. What they do is they borrow from one on Friday, they pay them back on Monday, and they use that money to operate to pay their debts in the weekend. It's absolutely
Wow.
what they've done for years. Anyway, circular money.
Circular money. Well, you would know, having studied the books at very high level. So I've got a lot of questions I'd like to dig into here. But before I have you weigh in on various aspects of the global financial reset, some say that we may be heading for a financial collapse. And there's a lot of schools of thought on that. Most of the analysts and economists the world over have that viewpoint. But who's collapsing it? How it will collapse? Will it collapse and when? Now, crystal ball questions. But do you believe, sir, We are, if so, in potential collapse. When will this happen, and what will be the cause of that collapse?
I believe there will be a collapse, but it will be almost a false flag collapse. And the reason I say almost a false flag is the alliance is doing everything it can to make the American dollar down to, I heard, 3 cents, worth 3 cents on the dollar some time back. That collapse will happen, and people will get very nervous because their bank accounts will disappear. But the reality is that the EBS 10 days will be followed by an opportunity for people to go in and find out how much money is really in their bank account. But it's not a bank account. So when we look at it, banking will disappear as we know it. There were some 235 executives from banks all over the world arrested over the weekend. That's a significant event. They also closed down, so far, at least 100 central banks. So when you look at those things, that is a collapse because it's a collapse from the old to the new. The SWIFT system is gone. There is no SWIFT system. It's collapsed. Yet, if I want to transfer money to Europe under the SWIFT system, it would have taken me 3 to 5 days. I have transferred money in the last 2 years in less than 30 minutes. So when we look at it, it's a collapse of the structure you're used to, not a collapse of the economies. Because the BRICS
Very
system,
interesting. Mhm.
BRICS was established as the predecessor for the global financial reset. It was done by
Yes.
five nations. They did it with Trump, talking to Trump every day. People don't understand that Putin and Trump talked about BRICS every day, literally every day, because that was part of the start of the major financial reset. And that's the
Yes, and the
gold.
BRICS nations.
All
You
transact
mentioned five,
business
right?
in gold. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, thus the acronym BRICS. And now, of course, the acronym would be so long because another 100 countries came aboard.
Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, to drive the dollars down pennies worth of value. I understand the dollar's down year to date about 10 to 12%. But I want to back up. You mentioned what I call the news behind the news. 100 central banks shut down, 235 banking executives ousted in one way or the other over the weekend. The storm is brewing, and we hear a lot about it. To our audience, we hear a lot in the drive-by social media and the drive-by world we now live in about these concerns, and we've just gotten some of the dots connected to substantiate those statements that the banking system is collapsing upon itself. Really, but let me move into this because you're touching on it. We are mid-transitioning, as you mentioned, from the deep state-controlled systems to a new system. In this stage of transition, I would say, I call this, before we arrive, where we've got past what we're about to endure in these various different forms of false flag related collapses, I think we're in what's called the danger zone, and for a lot of reasons. So the currency, the US dollar, as we mentioned, is under attack and trying to be dethroned by the BRICS nations and no longer being used as the petrodollar for international trade. So some say the death of the dollar is on the horizon, but President Trump begs to differ. he's gone up against the BRICS nations and says, you'll never take my dollar down, while it is coming down. How do you see it ultimately playing out? What's your analysis of how does the dollar fare? How does it get strengthened? What do you see happening? Because the president's not a loser, as we know. He's going to win one way or the other.
Yeah, but his win, he already made his win, because the gold-backed dollar is all ready to go to the market. It's been ready for a year or 2 years. And so we'll have a dollar, but it's the gold-backed dollar that's going to trade 1-for-1 with everybody else in the world. So if you have an ounce of gold here and an ounce of gold there, and you're trading, they're both worth the same amount. And so he's saying that, yes, we're going to still have a dollar, but what that dollar looks like is a little different from what we have now. It's not going to be a fiat currency. It's going to be a gold and silver and other resources backed currency, because we have the ability, we have more resources in the United States than virtually anybody else in the world that we can back our currency with. It's the problem has always been, we don't want to let people go mine in the many different places that we stole the property from people. That's going to change. It's already starting to change. And understanding that we've got these companies coming in from foreign nations, U.S. companies coming back, all of that is the dollar strength from the gold-backed dollar. And there's plenty
Excellent.
of gold.
Well, it makes all. We'll talk about that in a minute. I got a follow-up question on the plenty of gold statement in a moment. But sir, President, he used the campaign that Laura Trump kind of spearheaded back in the election process of 2020, the one that was stolen, and the slogan was "Promises made, promises kept." And they ran that, during that campaign, because the president in his first term certainly delivered on his promises. And he's doing so now, sir, to what you just mentioned, because he said, I'm going to give you back your country. I'm restoring the power back to the people. Well, what does the Constitution say, folks? Currency is supposed to be backed by gold in weights and measures equal to dollar for dollar, as you've just stated. So it makes all the sense in the world. Yeah. But now, a couple of quick things. We'll come back to gold in a minute. But so we're going to restore the power of our currency. Again, not right now. The dollar, by all graphs and stuff, is going down. But as you fast forward in this war, the economic side of the war, that battle, the dollar will be restored to the confidence because of the backing of gold, silver, and other resources, as you stated. But then it's my understanding, and I'm a layman in this area, it sounds to me like what once that's done in a series of sequential steps, I'm looking for correction or validation and commentary, is now we've got, fast forward, we've got our dollar backed by the tangibles, the God's resources in our country. And then we're going to move that paper dollar backed by those tangibles into a stable coin with still that backing that then gets encrypted in the QFS. And thus we don't need banks because we will be our own bank through some sort of QFS wallet. Am I speaking lunacy, or am I sort of hovering around the tiptoe steps of truth?
You're hovering right around it.
Okay.
But they're talking about the crypto wallet. I understood 4 years ago, that they had 8 billion cell phones to run QFS. Now, it may be that it's the crypto wallet, the card, and it may well be a cell phone. that you have
Hmm.
that operates on your frequency, your vibration, not on my fingerprint, not on my eyes, but literally on your DNA frequency, which is a very interesting
Interesting.
thought. You
It
know,
is very
it
interesting.
take
You know, I'd
it
like to
takes it
delve
to
into
another level.
technology and AI later. It sure does.
It
Let's come
it's
down. Let's come down the food chain of that stuff just for a moment, because I don't want it to slip past me. Gold, physical, tangible gold. I'll lay down a few things that I've come to learn about and have you weigh in on it. Obviously, Fort Knox, they floated it that they want to audit it, and then that narrative went away. Most of us, especially if you talk to people like G. Edward Griffin and Ron Paul, probably have a feeling that there's not much sitting there in Fort Knox. Now, there's that statement. Let's hang that Chad over there. Let's hang another Chad out there, and that Chad being uh, the plane loads recovered from the tunnels of the under the Vatican. You know, the Vatican, that place with the big wall to protect them. The Vatican that didn't want a
yeah,
wall to protect our nation. That
that no
Vatican,
longer
yeah.
has a
And
Swiss
so,
guard.
yeah. So tell me, sir, with all that gold that's been taken out on planes, and other things I'm hearing about, discoveries of gold and other natural resources, what can you say about that? And do you believe, in your humble opinion, that we will get an audit of Fort Knox? Because I think that blows the lid off a lot of things.
I think the Fort Knox was a false flag. Uh, the gold that was brought back here from the Vatican in the 650 planes was worth $54 quadrillion. Now that's enough for every man, woman, and child in the world to have $1 million, or the equivalent of $1 million. That gold was not brought back to Fort Knox. I believe it's in Cheyenne Mountain. Now, I'm not sure that that's where it is. It also could be in Reno, Nevada, because there's some big caves up in Reno, Nevada they could put it in and seal easily. So there is a lot of gold and a lot of silver. Where it is exactly, we don't know. And that's on purpose. Why should we know? Why do we want all those thieves in Congress to have access to know where the gold is?
Hmm.
If we remember, the
Makes
third
sense.
building that came down on 9/11 had $2 trillion worth of gold in it. And that gold was somehow disappeared into the pockets of some politicians. So when we realize
Wow.
that,
Yep.
we don't want to have anything where any congressman or senator can get a hold of it, because we still don't know who the good ones and the bad ones are. You and I don't. Trump does.
Hmm. Yes. I would, just take a wild guess and say there's probably about 10% good, honest, constitutional people that followed their oath they took on both sides of the aisle. If we get 10% of that crop, we'd be lucky. That's how corrupt it is. And Cheyenne Mountain certainly seems to be the safest place in the world for our riches,
Yeah.
for God's
That's where
riches,
Trump's
gold.
been.
Let hmm Yep. Let me talk about Powell. I mentioned to Sean Morgan a moment ago. Uh, we know the public feud playing out between the president and the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and I realize there's a lot of games and optics going on, but I see the Federal Reserve and the IRS slowly being dismantled. But one specific move the president made in 2020, and certainly in the last year, with all we see at least being put out there for us. Do you see it this way? Do you see the dismantling of the Federal Reserve and the IRS? While some of these functions have taken place already, there's still entities that are out there. People are paying their taxes as they should right now, and so forth and so on. But what's your commentary on the dismantling of the Fed and the IRS?
70,000 people were furloughed from the IRS 5 days after the lockdown. They're not coming back.
Good.
And the IRS, I'll tell a little story. My brother wrote a letter to the IRS some years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, because it's voluntary. Payments to the IRS are voluntary. They're not required by any law. There's no law that requires you to pay taxes to the IRS. He wrote a letter to them, and they said they'd get back to him in 6 months. That's 2 years ago. They haven't gotten back to him. Why? Because they can't answer his questions. They don't know the answers.
Mhm.
I've talked about there's a letter that the IRS was illegal, written in 1985. And actually, I can send you a copy of it. I keep a copy on my computer. But that
I would love a
letter,
copy of that.
yeah, I'll, the easiest way is I'll get it to Sandy and she can,
Thank you.
the easiest way for me because I have her stuff. Um,
Sure.
so that letter states that the IRS is illegal, and if a person applies for all of their back taxes, they must be paid all of their back taxes. And that was written in 1985 by the commissioner of the IRS. So when we
Wow.
look at this, Trump knows that. The person who found the letter was Edward Snowden. People think he was a traitor. Not. He's just in protective custody in Russia. But the reality is that that letter exists, and it specifically states the IRS is illegal because the
You know, our good friend Juan O'Savin, a lot of our audience knows and follows Juan, one of the sought after guests in the new media world. And Juan echoes your sentiments on the illegality and unconstitutionality of both the income tax code and the IRS. So, but I would love to see that letter. So, how
okay.
would you agree we're in the transition? Because even though that letter's there and it's been around and these are the facts, yet, you know, people, if you don't pay your tax, you get rather harassed or end up in prison. So when will that officially come to an end in your estimation?
I haven't paid a tax in 4 years. I have not heard a word from the IRS. I'll tell everybody, come get me,
I'm just
IRS,
joking,
so I
sir.
can send you the letter for my $5 million that you owe me, or whatever the number is.
I think everyone watching this show wants a copy of that letter. So when I have it, I will get it put up on my website,
Okay.
and there you can go get it, folks. Thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning that. I want to shift
Now,
gears
the
to the
Federal
debt.
Reserve,
Okay.
you wanted me
Okay,
to
go ahead.
talk about
No,
the
go ahead,
Federal
sir.
Reserve.
Continue. Yes.
The Federal Reserve has been absorbed into the Treasury for at least 3 or 4 years. The Federal Reserve is how am I going to put it? Is not a U.S. government organization.
Yes.
Never has been, never will be. It's a private organization run for the bankers. And
Yes.
Trump, in his first term, they moved most of its functions over to the Treasury Department. And because they were doing things that are not legal for a private corporation to do, like printing money. So what he's doing with Powell is he's playing his game. He likes to play games with people, particularly if he knows that they're wrong. And
Yes.
so he'll play with him. He'll play with him for a while longer, and then just close it down because he's got permission to fire him. The courts gave him that permission within the last 2 weeks. So he'll
Yeah, I
play
remember
along.
that.
And that's how Trump works. Keep your enemies close, closer than your friends.
I think you're spot
It's
on that analysis. It moves us into the debt. Let's go there for a moment because the USDebtClock.org just tricked another trillion. We're at 38 trillion now. And that's the federal debt. Never mind the future obligations of the federal government. Never mind the state debt, the municipality debt, and the we the people debt. When you throw all that in, well, who knows how many zeros there are. So having laid down the subject here is debt. How does this debt situation? I've heard a lot of different schools of thought from people I've been interviewing, and I'd like you to weigh in on it. How does this debt situation get resolved as we move through these transitions of the resets?
the debt is going to be covered. Okay, now I've lost my train of thought on the name. By the trust. Um,
Yeah, there's money held, right? There's hundreds of trillions in trust.
There's
Am I right?
$54 quadrillion in the trust.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
And
A
all
lot of
of the
zeros.
debt, a lot of zeros, it's millions of trillions of dollars. All of the debt will be covered by that. If it's real, most of it's not real. The
That's
$38
right.
billion we owe is the
Trillion.
U.S. is the Federal Reserve owes that, not the U.S. government. The
And let me interrupt you there. Is that because of the fraudulent system of the Federal Reserve itself that debt gets
Exactly.
back on their books, or the majority of?
And it's all owed by the corporation, not by the U.S. Republic. The corporation is bankrupt. The Federal Republic is
To,
not.
to our viewers, this sounds like science fiction lunacy movies of
It is.
interestingness. It's the colonel, of course, is reporting to you here really the facts from a 40,000-foot view. That is exactly where we are, and in there, people should breathe a sigh of relief. That's why I always say, trust. The people say there is no plan. Of course, there's a plan. Do you think the United States of America, I'm talking about the constitutional republic, is going to know for sure that our election was stolen and not go to war and do something about it? Of course, there's a plan. The plan is unfolding, and things are getting a century, or perhaps centuries, depending on the issue, of problems are being cleansed out right now. And it's not the flick of a switch. It's taking some time for it to actually come down into our daily lives. But this is good news. The Federal Reserve and the IRS, as we know it, is, for all intents and purposes, finished. But when does it? You know what I'm saying? Like, when does it officially? When does the repatriation of some of this stolen wealth come back to us? That would be the next kind of dovetail into this. What does the new currency, the new system, look like to you? Which we've covered, but the repatriation. So we're going to move the debt back where it belongs. We've got quadrillions of dollars. We've got all the gold stocked away in a couple of hidden places. The Treasury, much of the moves have been made over these last 3, 4, 5 years behind the scenes. The rest is playing out as optics. When do the optics end? These players get moved off the monopoly board, and the money goes where it needs to, including back to the people. In your crystal ball, when do you see this taking place?
Before I say that, I want to talk about the trust for a second. The Saint Germain
Sure.
Trust has been hidden from the people. It's the people's money. It's all the people's money for all their taxes, all their payments of property taxes, all that stuff, and for their birth certificates that were traded. The Saint Germain Trust is the place where all that money is, all that capacity is. It's all gold and silver backed. And the deep state has been hiding that from the people globally, because it's for global settlement, not just for us. And that's the important part. It's global. And So the St. Germain Trust has already been activated at some level. I don't know what the level is because you get bits and pieces when you're doing all this looking around the various people on the
Hmm.
internet. But the St. Germain Trust is starting to show up more and more in various places from various people. That's one trust. There's another trust that I heard about 4 years ago that I haven't heard much about that is allegedly King Solomon's money from way back when. It's in the Philippines.
Mm.
And from a gold standpoint, you have the 12 elders in China who have been working with the U.S. on the gold backed currencies. So you look at all of that and you say, okay, we are getting close. I won't say when
Yes.
because
Hmm.
people put out dates. Saw a date today of 7 November. Hey, who knows? I know somebody
Correct.
else who I personally know who does a lot of uh, internet speaking, and his comment is it'll happen on a Thursday. I can't tell you what Thursday, but it's going to happen on a Thursday.
Okay. Well, interesting.
So,
You know what? If you want to speak about projected dates, and I dare not go there. We all made those mistakes, people in my shoes, if you will, over these years. But because the war is fluid, and if we
yeah,
knew, I mean, so would the enemy. So, but let me ask you this: it seems to me, I'm a keep it simple, Sam guy. So you have President Trump talking about big celebrations in July. Yes, of course, it's our nation's 250th
yeah.
birthday. Yes, of course, we're off the 1871 corporation now and all that. It gives us a lot of reason to celebrate. But could it be, just a speculative question, could it be that by July, if we're celebrating block parties all across America, true celebrations, a lot's going to happen between here, the end of October, and July? That's a long, long time, but yet comes quickly. That July, if we're celebrating at such massive levels, it would seem to me, as I game theoried this out in my head, again, keep it simple, Sam, that some of the things we've been discussing should be official, if you want to say, and the benefits of the repatriation and some of the things you're saying that sound a little crazy to those that haven't been studying. I think these things may come to be the way we're operating come July. Yes or no, or am I wishful thinking,
I,
or is it a bad guess,
well,
a good guess?
it has to happen before July. People have to know that the arrests have been made. They have to know that the criminals are gone. They have to know that they've got what they call a level of abundance
Hmm.
before that. Their bank accounts are going to disappear at some time in the not too distant future. They have to get their quantum card, whatever it is, whether it's a computer and a phone or just a card. They have to have all those things. Then they can celebrate.
Hmm.
Trump knows that. And the people have to know what's going on. Now, we have to understand that certain people will never believe it. Will never believe it.
Correct.
I think it's 30%. That's my personal opinion. Uh, I think we have 5 to 10% that have a really good knowledge of what's going on. And then we have another 20% that are in pretty good shape. And then there's that 70%, 40% of them will accept what happens, but there's 30% that will never accept it and in the near term. 5
Hmm.
years from now, they'll accept it. 5 or 6 years from now.
See, the way I look at it is this: President Trump, obviously, he's got massive skill sets in so many ways, which is why he was invited by the high
Yeah.
brass military to
Yes.
help save our nation. And boy, is he demonstrated. Boy, the military didn't make a mistake on choosing him. God chose him as well. And God doesn't make any mistakes. And so President Trump has demonstrated to the world that he does what he says what he does, and he gets the results. Period. That's almost irrefutable. Certainly in the economy, which happens to be his expertise, besides his ability to work in the art of deception in war, with the greatest military command behind his back. And so, again, in my simple world, when you look at the results that President Trump had in his first and that dash period, that second dash term, and then 47, today's term, these 3 terms, he has gotten everything done that he's promised and more, and some of it quicker than anticipated. And so now we're entering, perhaps eventually, but we see the beginnings where we can actually say we may live in a world without war, which has never happened in my lifetime. But what I'm getting at here is he, in keeping his promises, if he said he's going to restore the power back to the people and give us back our country, you cannot do that with the Federal Reserve and the IRS doing what they do. It's not possible because they're unconstitutional and illegal, as you just stated, some aspects at least thereof. And so, common sense dictates these things are going away. And if there's quadrillions of wealth in various forms ready to go, and the president has talked about a $2,000 check coming to the taxpayers and stuff. Let's close out this segment with what your views are of how it might work, because there's a lot of ideas floating out there. And I've spoken, again, I invoke Juan O'Savin, and I speak to lots of other people, but Juan on private conversations alluded to exactly what you were just talking about. Each person's got some money coming to them, and in many cases, it's far going to exceed $2,000. How do you see that playing out in a responsible way that doesn't reverse collapse on us from all this money all of a sudden coming into the system?
I see it as, I'm 80 years old, and we go back, we have to have a workforce. But the workforce is going to be paid very well because they will get a portion of what's due them out of the funds, plus whatever they earn on their salary. So nobody will be hungry. The homeless will get significant amounts of money. What it will be, I have no idea. I can't give the number. I don't want to give numbers. I hear numbers all the time. And I know that your birth certificate, my birth certificate are worth significant amounts of money. And I know we paid taxes. That's a significant amount. That's all supposed to come back to us. The format for doing that is by age group. And the age groups will get so much here, so much there, so much there, so much there. To include the babies. They will get something, have something. And when they turn 18, they can have it all. It's theirs. So what I see is it's going to be, when you get your wealth card, which will be in the not too distant future, there will be money in your bank account that was in your QFS account that you didn't have before. And they will tell you when you go in to sign up, and some people say that can't happen. It has to happen because they have to give you an NDA so you don't reveal how much money you have to anybody. It could be, I've heard everywhere from $11 million to $200 million for somebody my age. Who knows what the number is? But the number is significant.
All of a sudden, I want to get older. Just little humor.
Yeah, but it's age 65 and above, and then 60 to 65, 50 to 60, 40 to
Mhm.
50, 30 to somewhere like something like that. And so whatever they decide, it will be an individual account. Nobody else will have access to that account. No banker, the QFS will, but it's your frequency and vibration that will determine how much money,
Wow.
determine how you use that money. Because you can use it any way
Fascinating.
you want to, but every time you use that card or you use that phone or whatever it is, it's going to be based on your personal frequency, your DNA frequency, and the vibration
Wow.
of your heart. That's
Hmm.
how it's going to work. And it's going to happen sooner rather than later. I won't give dates. People give dates all the
Hmm.
time. When I was on before, Tulsi Gabbard had said the 1st of January. Now she's saying the 15th of January. So who knows?
Hmm.
Who
Yes, I
knows
got you.
what the uh,
But
even the
Colonel,
insiders don't.
you've raised in the last few minutes, certainly the whole segment, but this last few minutes, really, really astonishing and incredible information that may be unbelievable to some people. But if you go back, 150 years or whatever it was, yeah, and if you would have explained the concept of a telephone or a car or a plane flying somewhere, people would think you're crazy. Not figuratively speaking, crazy. Here we are today. People listening to this broadcast have to understand that the technologies that are already there that they've known about for a long, long time are only now being accessed and utilized and implemented because the clutches of evil's hands are being removed from these things. This is why it's a spiritual battle between good and evil. And I believe what you just said a moment ago is critically important about our DNA, our vibration. Folks, it's time to raise our vibration, who we are, how we function in life, because that's universal laws. You put out good, good's going to come back to you. It makes all the sense in the world, and it's just a fascinating time to be alive and experience this. But the American people right now, the average Joe Lunch Bucket, Mom Pop Kettle, whatever you want to call us, are you know bombarded with all kinds of information on all kinds of fronts in this war. And I'm going to interrupt myself and tell our audience, if you want to hear the other issues of this war addressed, you've got to watch the just published today Global Defense War panel with Ricardo Bossi, Colonel Tom Lennox here, uh, uh, Colonel Sellers,
Colonel Sellers.
Derek Johnson. Yeah, incredible panel that we covered a lot of the other things. And if you connect the dots on all this stuff, it all is coming to a head pretty soon, and I just find it fascinating. And last thing I want to close out with, and then any closing comments you'd like to make, is my last sort of question is the I've lost it. Anyway, relating to the peoples, all of us waiting and waiting, sort of a thing. You mentioned it. We don't have dates, but logic dictates if we're going to be celebrating the dawning of the golden age in July. I think you're right, sir. The big arrests that the people are waiting for, and everyone thinks nothing's happening. Please, everything's happening. Everything's happening. Whether we know about it or we don't know about it, it is happening. But we do know Comey and Mueller and Letitia, and now Mike Pence has been brought in, and from the indictments and the grand juries, the indictments. Soon we're going to be having arrests, charges, and justice. Never mind what's already taken place that may be revealed. So, in closing, Colonel, you pretty much said by July what everyone's on the edge of their seat for will be revealed. Whether it's happened before or it hasn't happened yet, I think it's a little bit of both. It will be revealed, as well as some of these gargantuan moves in the money area, perhaps by July. So, any closing comments, sir, before we take a break and bring on the crypto expert?
I would say that people should be ready for an EBS. It's going to happen. There'll be 10 days of darkness. Those 10 days, we don't know when exactly it'll be, but you should be ready and prepared with water, food, etc. The financial piece will happen right after the EBS. And that's pretty much what everybody is saying. So the financial piece will happen right after the EBS. The EBS will be 10 days. You will not get any notification that it's going to happen. It will happen. Trump has released the codes to do it. They've tested it globally. It's a global EBS, not a US EBS. They've trained the people that are going to do the money distribution. That will happen after the EBS. That's what I hear from everything that I see. So, yeah, we need to be ready. And keep your spirits up because it is going to happen. Lost your voice, John.
To my
Can't hear you.
producer,
Okay.
Jessica, can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Oh, you can. All right. I'm just closing out our segment here and thanking you very much for what you've just shared. I'm asking our audience to rewind it later because this is live now, but will be posted in post production later, and share this and listen to those last statements. They're very important. I have a follow up and closing question about that EBS period. We've been warned by folks like yourself and other military and intelligence experts. We've been warned by Dan Bongino. We've been warned by Brigadier General, retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, Juan O'Savin. I mentioned Dan Bongino, and others, names that Sheriff Richard Mack. Very accomplished people from different areas of expertise in military and intelligence. And there's a common narrative they all have that we might not have had our final near-death experience of gut punch yet. Meaning that, as we take the wealth back and take the systems back during this darkness and so forth, they're not going to just lay down. They're going to take their final strikes at us. Even retired General Paul Vallée is concerned about infrastructure hits and so forth and so on. Can you comment on what dangers in our communities and in our streets may be coming our way, what we should do, even though we have the Guard and the military taking care of business and protecting the American people? We got to take care of ourselves too. Any closing comments and recommendations? Because once that's done, we're out of harm's way, in my opinion, for quite some time.
Yeah. Some say 1,000 years once all that's done.
Nice. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I believe people should have the capability to protect themselves, whatever that might be. They should be prepared because the National Guard and the military can't be everywhere. And having the ability to protect yourself is important, wherever you might be. And how you protect yourself, that's up to you. But I think you have to be able to protect yourself. And you have to have the food and the water. And because you don't know if the tap water is going to work.
Hmm.
And I have heard
Heed the call, folks.
that we're going to go to free energy because it's all there.
Well,
If you go
yeah,
if you go
Nikola
hug a
Tesla
tree,
is
you'll
quite
feel
happy
the
about
energy.
that. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox, for your contributions on this show periodically and each month, or the months you join us at the Global Defense War panel, which again I encourage everyone to go listen to. We cover everything we didn't cover in this broadcast on that broadcast. You've laid down a lot of good information for our viewers, and I want to thank you for your America and the world. Thanks you for your service and your continued
Thank
service
you,
as
sir.
a civilian. Thank you very much, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox. Thank you, sir. I'll be right back after this important announcement.
Your hard-earned assets are under attack and may be in harm's way. Many people are confused, thus concerned about what is going on with the currency, the markets, and the economy. A great change is underway. With the private wealth coach consult, of which John Michael Chambers discusses in greater detail in Module 10 of the Wealth Coach University, you can break through procrastination as you become informed, empowered, and connected. JMC has created a system whereby you can avail yourself to a team of like-minded professionals to help you navigate this unprecedented minefield and meet privately with John Michael Chambers. The Wealth Coach University was launched based upon years of experience as a successful former financial advisor to help you, Goots, get out of the system.
Hello, this is John Michael Chambers. I retired after nearly 15 years as an independent financial advisor in 2008 to heed a higher calling. My biography can be accessed by visiting wealthcoachuniversity.com. I know what goes on behind the scenes in the world of Wall Street and investments, as well as having my finger on the pulse of the global financial reset of which we are presently engaged. Let's discuss the Wealth Coach Consult. I am not a financial advisor, and I do not give specific financial advice, nor can I assist you in the repositioning of your assets. I will, however, provide answers to your questions to the best of my ability and provide a high-level analysis of you and your situation. At the conclusion of our consult, if one is prepared to take the next step and begin repositioning assets to GOOTS, G-O-O-T-S, get out of the system, I will make available to you the appropriate individuals in my resource network. In the financial world, these are licensed, seasoned, patriot professionals that can assist in this area and to help you get from where you are to where you need to be as soon as possible, both confidentially and with confidence. Visit wealthcoachuniversity.com. By doing so, you gain access to the 10 free educational video PowerPoint modules. Then schedule your Wealth Coach consult with me today. I do look forward to speaking with you. It's time. All right, I want to thank retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox and Sean Morgan for their contributions in this broadcast. We're going to bring on Josh Reed in a moment to go in depth on what's happening in the recent pullback in the crypto markets and all the opportunities that lie ahead. Before we do, I want to briefly just mention again my book, A Global Financial Reset. You can pick that up at Amazon.com. There it is, Global Financial Reset, Surviving and Thriving Through the Transition. 82-page quick read, sort of a hands-on workbook action. So check that book out, Amazon.com. Appreciate your support. Also, I want to make a quick announcement. Next week on the Global Financial Reset, we'll be introducing Will Barney of Enoch Global Services to our broadcast. He's been directed to me. I'm studying his work, and I think he's going to be a great guest to shine some other insights and angles onto what is going on out there in the marketplace. Also joining us next week, returning, of course, is our good friend, well, actually, Benjamin Hart, who hasn't been on the broadcast yet. We've just had scheduling issues and so forth and so on, but he's a U.S. attorney, citizen here in Thailand as well, for nearly 20 years practicing law. I work with him as a client on a variety of issues that I need since I reside here in Thailand. But this gentleman knows a lot of what's going on. He's going to report and talk about the 80 something million bank accounts closed in Vietnam that I've been talking about for a while, why they were closed, how they can do that, and what draconian moves he sees in this global reset in the banking sector and other areas with currencies and its impact over here in Asia, which he knows quite a bit about. So he'll be joining us next week on this broadcast, which I'm excited about. And also joining us next week, of course, he comes on every other week, is Bill Armour of Genesis Gold. Bill is getting a lot of favorable feedback from the public, and rightly earned, because of his great knowledge on what is going on in the economy and particularly its impact on both gold and silver. So Bill will be joining us next week as well. So Power Pack Show next week. I'm going to close out right now. I will not be coming back on screen, but stay on screen. Josh Reed served nearly 10 years in the U.S. Navy. Today, he's a deep dive researcher with his popular podcast in the MAGA Patriot movement. I've known Josh for many years. Josh and I have conflicting schedules. Remember, I'm 12 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time here in Thailand, and he's just as busy as I am. So what we do, since he can't make the live show, like right now, for example, we pre-record when our schedules work, and we bring Josh on. So I'm going to run for you a recording we did just last week, very current, very topical, very important, all things crypto related. Those that don't know Josh Reed, you won't forget Josh after you listen to this broadcast. And so I will sign off now. Here's Josh Reed on cryptocurrency. I want to wish everyone an amazing weekend coming up, and stay safe, and may God be with you. All right, sitting here with Josh Reed. How you doing, Josh? Thanks for coming here to talk with our audience.
John, happy to be back. Hope the audience is doing well. I've gotten to meet some of them. Amazing people and great audience out here, man.
Excellent. Well, thanks
Well
for being.
informed.
Yes, and so you're here to inform them further with a bit of a focus on crypto. But how would you like to weigh in on events as they're developing in the old system and the parallel system that we're dealing with right now? Any new developments, any pointers towards crypto and why? Any way you'd like to go would be important for our viewers.
Yeah. So number one is the last week and a half, or since the last time we talked, Bitcoin actually took a massive tumble. All the markets got hit. It actually coincided directly with Donald Trump and Xi Jinping going back and forth with economic tariff talk, again, talk of 200% tariffs again. But that's actually not what happened to cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency should have actually been really stabilized during that time. But instead what happened is the old system played Rune again. Now, number one is, you and I both know that when we're talking about billions of dollars moving in financial markets, the only people that have the ability to do that are financial institutions, large financial institutions that hold massive billions of dollars of leverage. What we saw actually occurred through Binance, and this is something that we've seen occur throughout the years with cryptocurrency, 2017, 2020, 2021. Where they rug pull the market. And typically what happens is that you'll have $100 billion in longs on the derivatives market, and someone will drop off, $5 or $10 billion worth of Bitcoin onto the market, flood the market, drops the price drastically, liquidates all of those longs. Someone who's taking the opposite, shorten it, is going to make that money, and then they start buying it up again. This is what's happened in the crypto industry for a very long time. It's one of the reasons why we actually need regulation. We need SEC oversight into the crypto world, and this is actually coming. This is what the Clarity and the Genius Act were all about, was setting up these initial frameworks. And from what I gather right now is Binance is being investigated for this by the SEC. So, and they're not actually can't operate in the United States as of right now, but my thought out there to everybody is that this was large financial institutions, and this is what I've been warning about for a very long time. The reason I say that is because they're not going to ever be able to hold 51% control of the Bitcoin market or any of the crypto markets, but they're damn well going to try to get as much percentage share or leverage that they can. You got to remember, we got State Street, BlackRock, all of these guys. They hold 3 to 4% of just about every company in the world. If they can hold 3 to 4% of Bitcoin, they can actually transition the market at any point that they want through various different points of manipulation. And so I think that this was another ploy for them to go out there, crash the markets, bring that Bitcoin price down to near or close to 100,000 as possible, allowing a lot of their big whale investors to actually begin investing into Bitcoin at a highly reduced price. And they're doing that through the back end sales of Bitcoin that they dollar cost average at 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. So they got high end levels of profit that they're making off of this. But what we're seeing right now is certain points of market manipulation, which we see in Wall Street and everywhere else, that are driving the price of cryptocurrency down. Now, as people are listening to this, they're like, well, I don't want to be a part of that market. Well, listen, this is what I want people to understand. Is that when you see that price drop from 120,000 down to 110,000, 108,000, or even close to $98,000 of Bitcoin, you better buy. You better be buying those dips and getting in. And the reason I'm saying is because we are still in the wild, wild west of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And there's a lot of interesting things happening right now, but I want everybody to understand that we're laying the tracks of the new railroad. The trains haven't even started running yet, okay? And that you're going to have problems as you're laying those first tracks. You're going to have boulders and mountains that have to get moved before that happens. And we're still in that range. Why is that important? Because we have less than 3% global adoption of cryptocurrency. Okay? The average American, I think it's 7% of Americans hold more than $1,000 of cryptocurrency. Now, if people are listening to this and they have, investments in stocks and bonds and mutual funds and 401ks and gold and silver and all these things, but they're not holding cryptocurrency, this is the internet in 2003 when people are saying that, hey, they're gonna control 98% of the retail markets online, and people are like, brick and mortar are never gonna go away. And guess what happened? Brick and mortar went away, and now the internet dominates over all others, and you're kicking yourself in the ass that you could have invested in 2003 into these tech companies that you knew were going to be successful. Well, that's where we are right now in cryptocurrency, is that we know what cryptocurrencies are going to be the foundational basis for the blockchain infrastructure that's being built out in the United States of America. We know that blockchain is being pushed by Donald Trump for a specific reason, because it becomes an ancillary methodology for AI infrastructure. It becomes a secondary backbone for national security on AI infrastructure. Over the last 24 hours, we had massive problems with the internet. AWS, Amazon Web Services, their whole system went funky over the last 24 hours, and we lost massive amounts of web access. Well, guess what that means? It means that people like Elon Musk are going to start putting star clouds in orbit around the Earth to go with Starlink and start housing the internet in space, confirming an article that I wrote 3 years ago on my Substack that we're going to see privatized, decentralized, a la carte internets, to where you're going to have Elon Musk's internet in space that you can get access to for $5 a month, and it's going to host all these different websites with zero downtime. And you're going to have all of these rising up, and they're going to be hosted on various different blockchains. And the blockchain is actually going to bring about that network stability, that network infrastructure, the transaction per second medium, as well as the integrity and the immutability of the data infrastructure that's on those blockchains. But then it's going to be that ancillary level of backup for the AI infrastructure that's also being developed for national security purposes. So I want people to know is that there's $20 trillion of investment capital flowing into the United States of America. This is going to build out a whole new AI infrastructure, a blockchain infrastructure, and what we would consider to be the quantum financial system, or the new financial system that's running up in parallel right now to our current financial system. This is so important because don't look at what's happening with the market makers right now, the globalist market makers like BlackRock dropping the market down $100 billion, a $20 billion loss in Bitcoin in one day, right? Which was the largest drop ever for Bitcoin in its history. And guess what? It rebounded. It came right back up, got billions of dollars of new inflow, right? But I don't want people to look at it as like, well, that's a negative. That's why I'm not getting into it. Well, listen, you're at the cusp of something that's about to be a $10 to $20 trillion market cap, and it's sitting at $2 trillion right now in market cap. That's Bitcoin, right? If you knew that now, it's going to be 10 trillion. It's going to 5x over the course of the next 5 years. Would you put your money in it? People are like, yeah, I would. I'm telling you right now where it's at. And Trump is telling you, hey, we got the strategic Bitcoin reserve. The Trump administration just came in and converted $172 million into Bitcoin. They just seized $14 billion of Bitcoin. What do you think they're going to do with that? They're going to throw that in the strategic Bitcoin reserve, which then becomes part of our sovereign wealth fund, which, by the way, those two bills have not hit Congress yet. And they're not going to hit Congress because I know what they're doing. John, the Trump administration is actually waiting for what I would call phase 4 implementation. After we get through the roughness of the indictments and the trials and the arrests and all this stuff, you're going to get phase 4. And this is Make America Great Again. But something interesting has to happen first. You got to get a supermajority in Congress and Senate. And we are on track for that to happen right now in the midterms. Right? We're watching the end of the Democratic Party. We're watching the end of the radical liberals. It's done. They're defunded, firstly. The voter thievery is done. Venezuela is basically cornered. All the machines are being bought out and sold, and all the companies are trying to save face and cover their ass. It's over. We're going to have a supermajority. Well, what happens when Trump gets a supermajority is now we can get constitutional amendments passed, like term limits. We can get constitutional amendments like a sovereign wealth fund that pays a distribution directly to the American people, that has a distribution that is set constitutionally with the assets of America, with ownership directed towards the American people. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the whole thing that we've been waiting for. And this is why the Trump administration is not bringing these points of legislation in the Congress right now, because just by law, they can be annotated and annexed by the next Congress that comes in. But if you have a supermajority and you can get a constitutional amendment in for the sovereign wealth fund and strategic Bitcoin reserve, it becomes a lot harder to change those constitutional amendments. Actually, once in 100 years is the probability of that actually happening. And so we're coming up into this really interesting time frame. And I want people to understand, once we have that sovereign wealth fund and strategic Bitcoin reserve in place, and the strategic Bitcoin reserve, Trump did come out and he said, look, it's not just going to be Bitcoin. It's going to be Ethereum. It's going to be XRP. It's going to be Cardano. It's going to be Solana. There's going to be others in there. When that happens, we got to understand that a $3 trillion crypto market cap is $2 trillion for Bitcoin, $3 trillion total crypto market cap is going to go to 10 trillion. It's going to go to 20 trillion. Gold and silver. Gold is going to go to a 30, $40 trillion market cap. Okay. I want people to see this because we have the inflow of capital right now. We have new capitalization in progress. We have new market dynamics that are being created. We have new sectors that are being born around all of this. And the Trump administration is placing the regulation. They're placing the infrastructure to make America great again if we can see what's happening. And the infrastructure is really simple to understand. When it comes to AI and blockchain, and this is something that I did in the course that we talked about, right? When you talk about AI and blockchain, there's 3 things that everybody has to understand: energy, data, and computation. Now with AI, that is the only thing that you need to make an AI great, is energy input, computational power, and massive amounts of data. Well, guess what? The same thing holds true for blockchain. You just need energy, data, and computation. And so that's why those 2 things come together and fit together very nicely. This is why it's going to be the ancillary backup for artificial intelligence, which is going to become a national security mission under the Trump administration. And I know AI scares a lot of people out there. Maybe that's a conversation we could have another day, because I can hopefully enlighten them to that. That is not, maybe it's not going to be as crazy as people think, because when you start to integrate blockchain control mechanisms that are not automated, that they're not AI controlled, and you utilize that as a primary layer 1 on top of AI, it makes all the difference. And that AI cannot actually initiate any actionable protocols until it actually flows through a generic thought flow diagram through a blockchain, or through what we call smart contracts. But anyways, that's a conversation for the next day. What I want people to start to see is that the future has trillions of dollars of potential, tens of trillions of dollars of potential in new market capitalization. And the time to invest in it is tomorrow. And you're sitting at today.
Yeah, you know, that first off, great information, Josh, as always. Thank you. And a couple of follow-ups on that. your metaphor or analogy that you started with and sort of just alluded to close that segment out is very spot on. Keep it simple, Sam. At the end of the day, you're right. You go back when AOL was what? What's AOL, right? And look what happened. People missed the ride of the internet, the birth of the internet opportunities, and you're paralleling that with the birth of the crypto opportunities. And I think you're absolutely right. I want to talk about sovereign wealth fund in a minute, but before I do, the without, we're not giving specific investment advice to anybody here. Of course, we're speaking to a camera, to a large audience, a collective group of people. From an educational standpoint, if you wanted to point people into the crypto type world of investing, where would you go to? Which ones? A couple, three you want to mention, and why?
Well, if I was going to point people into various different cryptocurrencies, it really depends on kind of where they are as an investor, right? If you're a novice, beginner, if you're someone who's more intermediate, if you understand cryptocurrency, a lot of the things that I hear is everybody's going all in on XRP, XRP, XRP this, XRP that. I'm different. I'm not like that. The reason is I've been in cryptocurrency since 2017, 2016. I want you to think for a minute. I'm going to use an analogy here for people, okay? And the analogy is actually really simple. Think about it like this, is that it's 1990 and you're going to go buy a television, right? And your first flat screen, big plasmas are coming out, right? And you see these big plasmas and you go in there and the salesman's like, hey, those plasmas, they're really expensive, $5,000, $10,000. But hey, I got this great brand new, 65-inch CRT right off the shelf. It's right over here. It's an amazing television. We'll deliver it, set it up for you. All you have to do is just make one payment today. Most people are going to go with that CRT television, right? Because it's got a great picture. It's usable. In the 1990s, yeah, absolutely. I had the entertainment center that's going to fit directly into it. It's going to be usable for a good 5 to 10 years, right? But then you get that CRT television. 5 years down the road, you start getting your first LCD TVs coming out. A lot more lightweight, a little bit cheaper, way easier to use, crisp, clear picture. Well, what do? You don't even keep that CRT TV for its whole term use. Instead, you throw it to the curb, you get rid of it, you bring in that new TV. Then every 2 years, you're upgrading, right? XRP is that CRT TV. Right now, it's great. It's going to fit the purpose for what we need it for. We can pop it in. It's going to do exactly what we need. But in actuality, it's obsolete. And the reason I say it's obsolete is because it's 2014 antiquated technology. I mean, the whole purpose of XRP in its development was to replace the SWIFT system. And people take that a little bit deeper. It means interoperability. It means cross-border payments. It's an inter-exchange between various different mainstream currencies. How do I go from the US dollar to the Canadian dollars? Well, I have to have a liquidity market in the place. I have to have a buyer for the US dollar and a buyer for the Canadian dollar. Instead, I'm going to put XRP in the middle there. And you can buy the XRP with the US dollar, buy XRP with the Canadian dollar, you translate it back, and you can get your money out. And there's very low fees. It's very, very fast and transactional. Well, in blockchain, that makes a lot of sense, right? That's great. Well, guess what? All the new blockchains already resolved layer 2 solutions. They already resolved all of the interoperability. It's built into them. XRP only exists because a lot of the antiquated blockchains, like Ethereum and so forth, they don't have this. They're still old technology. They were developed for problems that the financial and the digital world were having 10, 15 years ago. Not for the problems of tomorrow, which the blockchains now are actually coming into. So this means sell off all your XRP. No. I'm very bullish on XRP. I think XRP is going to have a really good run for the next 5 years. I think that you're very much safe if you're in XRP right now. This is not financial advice. This is just my opinion. Now, looking at XRP, does it have a long-term dynamic future? Is Trump bringing it in to the sovereign wealth fund or the strategic Bitcoin reserve? What's the purpose of it? Is it going to replace, mBridge and SWIFT? Nope, it's not. We already know that. Number one is, John, if we're taking down the central banking system, Is there going to be a SWIFT? No. Is there going to be a need for Enbridge? No. So why are people saying that it's going to replace SWIFT and Enbridge? We're taking down that financial system. I don't think people truly understand what cryptocurrency and blockchain actually do. In the old system, if I went to the 7-Eleven and I took a $10 Canadian bill and I went to the 7-Eleven, I hand them the $10 Canadian bill, they're going to look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, you have to go down to the bank. You have to go out and exchange that for US dollars. You go to the bank, they do it nice and easily, but there's actually transactions that are happening on the back end. They give you your $10, you go back, now you can go to the store. Tomorrow, you're going to be able to go into the 7-Eleven. It doesn't matter what cryptocurrency or what money you have. It's going to automatically convert it over to stablecoin. You're going to go like this. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It's going to be automatic, immediate. The transaction fee is going to be 1/100th of a penny. And it's going to happen just like that. And the liquidity providers are you and me. There's no central banks.
Right.
Which means that the whole infrastructure that is set up for the banking world right now, there's no need for it. Blockchain makes banks obsolete. So if there's any crypto out there that's saying that, hey, we're gonna help the banks and we're gonna be a part of the banks, I'd be weary of that.
Yeah.
Now, I do understand though, with the Trump administration, is that you can't just kill a complete industry and market. You can't just go out there and annihilate all banks and central banks. So what you need is a parallel transition. So what you need is you need to start rising up this new economy. At the same time, you're decreasing usability of the old economy.
Yes.
And once they meet in that middle, there's a transitionary time frame of conversion that is not harmful to the people of the world or the liquidity systems that are operating. And then you slowly allow the new one to take over while the old one subsides.
Yep.
We're already seeing the inklings of this right now through the Clarity Act, through the Stablecoin Act, through the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. Treasury right now has the ability to go out there and issue 50-year gold bonds to stablecoin companies, privatized stablecoin companies, where that stablecoin company will go out there and issue a stablecoin specific use for the U.S. government, send it to the U.S. government, to the U.S. Treasury. Guess what? No Federal Reserve, no central bank involved at all. The federal government can now take that money, distribute it like regular U.S. dollars anywhere to anything it needs. The great thing about that is it's all on the blockchain. It's all on public ledger. It's all auditable. So you can audit it at any point in time. Congress can oversee all those transactions, exactly where every penny goes of that money. That is a superior system than what we have currently, and it does not involve central banks. It does not involve the Federal Reserve. But before that happens, go ahead.
Well, this makes all the sense. I mean, there's other reasons, of course, to get rid of the Federal Reserve and the IRS that our audience well knows of, but this adds to that move, which is taking place. When a crystal ball question, I don't think any of us actually know. Some folks, of course, go out there and say the IRS doesn't exist anymore and the Federal Reserve doesn't exist anymore. And I say, well, then give me all the greenbacks in your wallet if it doesn't exist, and try not to pay your taxes and see who knocks on your door. They still exist. It is changing. I know some of the changes that the president has made, and we certainly know the direction they are heading in. In your crystal ball, your wildest guess, when do you think the Federal Reserve, and then same question, the IRS itself, both of these entities, one might call them criminal organizations. They're certainly unconstitutional, that we know. When do you think they will officially be out of the picture? Because that ties into
right.
Yes.
So I don't think they're officially going to be out of the picture. I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a transference of responsibilities. So, for instance, the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, is going to transition into the External Revenue Service.
Yes.
They are going to take over all tariff revenue. All IRS agents will be ERS agents. They're going to start mitigating tariff money, where that money flows, how it goes, investigating those types of crimes, all of that stuff. But that's slowly going to be implemented. So they'll create a small department, 20% of the allocation of the IRS, and that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger while all the other departments get smaller and smaller and smaller until tariff revenue increases enough globally or through the Trump administration to where it compensates to the $3.2 trillion of U.S. tax revenue that comes in each year. Once you have that equivalent $3.2 trillion of revenue that's coming in through tariffs, just tariffs.
Yeah.
Now you can get rid of the federal income tax.
Yes,
And
which is
so
what he
this
wants
is
to
what
do. Yeah.
is exactly what he's going to do. Now,
Yeah.
Trump has said that, it's going to take some time, maybe 15 years. Scott Bessent is like, I want it now. I think we're going to see it towards the end of the Trump administration, the transitional factor. Now, the Federal Reserve. Is the Federal Reserve just going to be shut down overnight? No. The Federal Reserve is going to be infiltrated. We're going to put a Fed chairman in the Federal Reserve that is pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-America, pro-America first. He's going to go in there. He's going to audit it. He's going to gut it. He's going to take back control of U.S. gold. He's going to fire anybody that he disagrees with, and he's going to start modeling it towards this new economic system.
I agree. That makes all the sense in the world, and we see those steps already taking place. American people are pretty impatient. These things take time. This could take 1 to 3 years. I agree with you. Perhaps by the end of Trump's first term, this term rather. I want to mention something that's happening here in Asia. I'm in Thailand. For those that follow me, know that. I'm bringing on. We were unsuccessful in doing so due to scheduling, technology, and language barriers. But we're bringing on a U.S. attorney, also a naturalized Thai citizen now. He's been here 20 years. I've worked with him as a client, and his name is Benjamin Hart. He's a lawyer out of Bangkok. And I'm going to have him comment on the 86 million bank accounts that were closed down with no notice for all those in Vietnam that won't accept the biometric system. And that is a big move. And then even here in Thailand, I'm afraid to mention it because I have no facts yet, but I have eyes. At the mall, there's a particular bank here. There's several banks, like we have many. There's a particular bank, and you're in the mall, and there were like, I would guess by my eyes, best guess, 200 plus people easily online, jetting out from the bank in the mall into the mall. Big commotion, peaceful, but big commotion, big line to the bank. What's going on here? It was only that bank where there were 4 other banks there that had regular, normal traffic. And I haven't researched it yet, but I'll be asking the attorney about that. And I did speak to somebody here who said there was a disruption of getting money from the apps. Now, so this attorney is going to be commenting quite a bit on what's happening here. Again, 86 million accounts in Vietnam. Why am I invoking this? Because it's what you've been talking about, the tokenization of everything, the stable coin, the cryptocurrency, the blockchain, this whole new system. This is global, right? So, I mean, we can see from some of these things here. So I'm looking forward to bringing this attorney on and have him, and he knows quite a bit about things as well, besides practicing law. I'm curious to see what he says, but what's your view about the globalness of this? I mean, here I am 10,000 miles away, and we see some changes taking place. I'm wondering, surely it'll be slower on this end than it is, say, in the Western world, but I think it's coming everywhere, don't you? The new system of money.
So the BRICS community has been working on a blockchain stablecoin network to basically replace the SWIFT system. And we remember the conversations with the Rupal a few years back, is that this is going to be a gold-backed currency. So each country will hold its own share of gold, of which will then fortify their stable coin, which will be utilized for their financial intermediary transactions. China has been one of the world leaders of gold buying, India and Russia right behind them. Yep. So this should give you an indication that they're very serious about this. China just recently, back in 2020, China actually outlawed Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. Hong Kong is a little different, but China just actually announced that they're going to be purchasing like $13 billion worth of Bitcoin. So this comes about in the context that, hey, China is going to be adopting cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. Trump's going to be adopting cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. This is not going away. That, like, it is a global phenomenon. And we have to understand that the world is going digital. And I think that you kind of said it best. It goes to the idea that, people are saying that the Federal Reserve and the IRS don't exist anymore. Well, tell that to your tax attorney, or tell that to the cashier taking your Federal Reserve notes, right? Well, with cryptocurrency, is like people are like, well, we can't go to a digital world and everything like that. No, listen, people. The digital world is coming, whether you agree with it or not, whether you like it or not, whether you love it or not, or hate it or not. It doesn't matter.
Correct.
That world, Pandora's box, is already open.
Yep.
AI, digital currencies, it's here. Your non-integration into it only seals the deal that somebody else is going to proclaim it theirs. What does that mean? Is that the more people who resist and stay out of the networks of cryptocurrencies and digital currencies and don't learn about it, don't use it, don't care about it, it's the beast system or whatever, the more it's going to become the beast system. Because the more the institutions, the more the governments, the more the tyrannical and totalitarian people are going to get a hold of it and then make it that of which they already hold power and control and then use it against you. The more people like you and me that go out there and we start learning and investing and we start becoming the people in the middle, the people that are part of that decentralized network, we become the infrastructure for it. That's the great thing about crypto. It's decentralized networks. As in, if you got a computer at home, a GPU at home, you're running that blockchain. Now you have a say in that blockchain to where if everybody is active going out there learning about it, everybody is integrated in the blockchain, and then you have some totalitarian asshole that comes out and they start saying, well, now we're going to make it programmable. Everybody closes their computer, takes it offline, that blockchain goes away. That's the power of the people. But that only happens if you get involved, if you learn about it and you understand it. If we stay outside of the system, they're going to control it, and that system is going to be implemented one way or another, whether you like it or not. And so I much rather be a part of the system that I know that I can have a piece of, that I can have a say in, that my word matters, that I know I can control to a certain degree, and that if there's more people like me that I can educate and get into that same system. And when I say system, I'm not talking about a system of control, I'm talking about a system of decentralized freedom to where if we are all the majority in the blockchain and it's a decentralized community and we don't like what the government's doing, we don't like what globalists are doing, we simply turn it off, they lose everything. We hold the cards, we hold the power. But that only happens if people get involved.
Yep. Well, you raised, as we wrap this up, Josh, you raised a great point there. And I'm in the camp, AI, robots, this whole technology of money. I'm old school. I wish it didn't go there. And we fix the messes that the system has in other ways, which can be done. But there is no stopping what is happening. It's not all bad. Some of it is very liberating and very good and very control centered for us. I agree with all that. And I agree with the best advice for anyone listening right now is nothing, we know the expression, nothing's going to stop what's coming, as that typically is related to the deep state going down, the justice coming and freedom being restored for people. It's the same saying I would apply to crypto. Nothing's going to stop this technology from going. So you better get involved. You better get educated. I'm in the process. I'm in 101 school. I learned in listening to you and some of my other guests and the research I do. And I have just acquired some crypto for the first time, but that's good advice. And Josh, I want most of my audience knows who you are. For those that don't, Josh covers a lot of different topics, from transhumanism to aliens to the deep state battles and everything else. Tell everyone where they can follow you on your shows, and on the specific to the crypto. I know you've got a lot of educational templates and formats. Tell everybody how to plug into you and your world, crypto and otherwise.
Yeah. So number one place, redpills.tv, redpills.tv. That's my primary website. Everything's linked up there. There's two buttons at the bottom. One is support, one is social. You can find all of our channels, everything I'm doing, all of the stuff that we're working with. If people are interested in more of my writing style, of more of the things that I'm talking about here in a reading nature or even my video nature, Substack, redpillproject.substack.com, redpillproject.substack.com, all one word with a dot, then substack.com. And then for crypto, if you're interested in doing crypto consultations, very easy, thecryptofuture.com, thecryptofuture.com, crypto with a C, thecryptofuture.com. And that's where you can find that. And then from there, by the way, I don't work with any crypto company or anything like that. I'm not putting people in cryptocurrency. Right. I'm not holding cryptocurrency. I'm not taking nothing. It's simply just education. And so it's helping people understand what is coming and what's happening.
That's the best investment they can make before they make any investment, is to get the education. I've always said, if you don't understand it, don't do it. I mean, right. Because if you're lucky and you have a good experience, well, great. But if you have a bad experience, you're going to be pretty pissed off. So get the education, as would be with anything that you would do. And crypto being new and being complicated, new words, new technologies, a new day dawning in a new technological era, get the education. So thanks, Josh, for sharing your knowledge on all this stuff and directing people to you, for those that want to learn more, so they can confidently make decisions versus rolling the dice on it. You got to get the education. I'm big on that. So thanks a lot, Josh. Appreciate you being here, and thank you for contributing to the Global Financial Reset. Keep up the good work you're doing, and appreciate you very much. Thank you, Josh.
Godspeed, Patriots.
Okay, good, excellent, lots of great stuff. You can get a lot out. Even if you only spoke for 5 minutes, you've gotten more content out in 5 minutes than the average guy gets out in an hour. So it's good. It's content rich. Let me shut the recording off. We'll crop.
Join Juan O'Savin, retired Lieutenant Colonel Matt Meck, retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, and other prominent military and intelligence guests for an ongoing monthly broadcast with John Michael Chambers as your host here on jmcbroadcasting.com. The premiere episode launches Friday, September 26, 2025, and is sponsored by Genesis Gold. Visit jmcgenesismetals.com. This panel will address, among other subjects of great importance, what's taking place with the military tribunals, sealed and unsealed indictments, and the avalanche of arrests to come. Will justice be served? This and much more will be addressed each month, including an analysis of current events, making sense of the events as they unfold, one psyop after another. Detecting truth from lies in the dying age of fake news and the rising age of AI and digital enhancements will help you to remain focused and grounded in these most challenging, difficult, and dangerous final battles. A new day is dawning as this golden age is at the doorstep. Remain informed, empowered, and connected by an elite team of military and intelligence experts, and together we will save America. Subscribe for free at jmcbroadcasting.com and be sure to join us monthly. Eyes on Gitmo, wartime analysis. Nothing can stop what's coming, and the best is yet to come. Where we go one, we go all here at jmcbroadcasting.com.